Macquarie's been around since 1992, and that's actually the beginning of deregulation in Australia. So we're one of the founding members of the telecommunications industry here. We're publicly listed, and we have offices all around Australia and well as South Asia now. We serve the business and government market, and I run the data business and the hosting business from a commercial side, and recently deploying security solutions as well.
Who would you say is the incumbent in this industry?
There is no incumbent in this industry. The industry is characterised by a couple of different players coming in from different directions. You've got the traditional ISPs that 20 years ago when the businesses first started getting the internet connection and their very first sort of brochureware website. And then at the other end of the scale you've got the outsourcers who completely outsource everything. People move their whole staff to them, the application, and they do hosting as well.
How does a hosting enterprise make money?
From a couple of different sources. There's one model which is co-location, which is where customers come in and put their own equipment inside a hosting facility, and that's typically a monthly rental environment, plus connections to the internet, so that could be a flat rate or a usage-based scheme. Other companies do managed hosting as well, like Macquarie, so there's a monthly rental for the infrastructure, the server. There may be additional fees for doing tape backups and storage, etc. There may be other service fees for security. Security is becoming more and more important to protect and harden your environment, so putting a security layer around, so that's often a monthly fee as well. And again, connections to the data network, could be a fixed rate or a usage rate. And again, the internet, every business is connected to the internet, so there's always a connection there.
Glenn, how involved should an executive team be when it comes to selecting a web hosting partner?
It's been our experience that companies, when they want to choose an outsourcer for their hosting environment, it depends how important that online business is to their company. If you've got perhaps a traditional company that's been around for a while and the hosting is a sort of a small adjunct to it, then often you'll see that being managed perhaps by the IT department. But other companies where the online presence is like they're pretty much a virtual company, it's very common for the CEO to be completely involved with it. And over time we've seen all the businesses and government departments, there's this constant move that the internet and hosting is increasingly a mission critical part of their business. So increasingly we're seeing the CEO, the CFO and the CIO becoming increasingly involved. You've also got corporate governance issues now, which is a lot of changes in legislation over the last 4 years. So the corporate governance at a board level is forcing these decisions to be taken at a high level, particularly to do with security. It's no longer good enough to use a defence, I didn't know about it. It's now incumbent on the executive management team. So increasingly the hosting business is becoming very much an executive level decision.
Okay, great. When it comes to selecting a hosting solution for a company, are all hosting firms alike?
Absolutely not. The commoditisation can happen at the lower end where you potentially just got a simple sort of brochureware type website, but in large business and government where your website is fully integrated with perhaps your suppliers and your systems, we're finding it very customised, quite to the contrary. So that every design we're doing has got some basic components, but we're finding a heavy amount of tailoring and design because everyone's got their own requirements to do with security, design and integration.
All right, that makes sense about having a tailored solution. How does a firm commence their research when it comes to selecting a hosting partner?
We recommend when people are researching their potential supplier, they've got to do a couple of key things. First of all, analyse their accreditations and certifications. You'll go out and you'll meet companies and they'll have reasonable looking facilities. It's very hard to really assess what's beneath the covers. You've got to look at systems, processes, documentation, change control, staff, etc. You can't tell that by just engaging the company outside. You need independent certifications. So things like, in our industry, there's a couple of key ones. The BS 7799, it's an international standard for information security. There's an Australian variant of that called AS 17799. Macquarie is the only commercial data centre in Australia to have both of those. Then you also look in the government market, some key certifications there is the Defence Gateway certification. That's a secure internet connection to government. Macquarie is only one of 3 or 4 companies that has that certification. And then the vendors. You've got to make sure that if you're providing complex managed hosting, that your supplier is fully accredited vendors. So things like Microsoft certifications, because given the Microsoft dominance in this space. Red Hat is now starting to become highly used in business and government applications. So Macquarie's the only data centre in Australia to be Red Hat certified, etc.
Glenn, you touched on an interesting thing there in terms of Linux, open source and proprietary solutions. In layman's terms, what is the difference and what is the business benefit for a firm to partner up with a firm that can offer one or the other, or if not both of those solutions?
Yeah, people are very passionate about one or the other. We're actually quite agnostic about it. The open source stuff has come from roots with the developer community, but to be serious in the business and government space, that needs to get to a level of consistency and quality, and things like Red Hat have now achieved that with things like Linux, and obviously you've got Microsoft on the Windows environment. So because we have both certifications, we actually don't mind which customers choose. It's pretty much up to the customer and the developer what platform they choose to run their infrastructure on.
When it comes to selecting a web hosting partner, what are the critical do's and the critical don'ts that someone should be undertaking throughout the selection process?
Yeah, when selecting a hosting partner, there's a couple of key things we look at. You look at certifications, make sure they've been independently certified. The other key component is look at service level guarantees. A lot of numbers get bandied around through the sales process at the various targets, but if you actually get a breach of those targets, what actually happens? And I think that really separates some of the leading players from the rest of the pack. The other thing, because there's such a rapidly evolving technology space, you've got to look at a partner who's going to be with you for a long time. Security is such a dynamic environment. Today you may have certain requirements, but over time you know that the IT is just going to get more and more mission critical to clients. So you need to choose a partner that can grow with you on your data networking, your security infrastructure, indeed your managed hosting environment.